Okay, these are the notes for adding and subtracting complex or imaginary numbers. So if you were in class, we would simply just go over this sheet. This is pretty simple because it is basically exactly the same thing that you did last year with combining like terms and the year before. So, for example, last year you might have had something that was 4 plus 3x plus 2x, and you would combine like terms. Well, nothing goes with the 4, so that answer would be 4 plus, you can combine like terms. X's go with x's, so 3x and 2x is 5x, and that would be your answer. 4 and 5 you don't add together because they're not like terms. You might see something that might have distributive property in it. Doesn't really matter. 2 plus 8y plus 6 plus 10y. So the parentheses don't really matter if there's a plus sign here. It's not going to change anything. If there's a minus sign there, which I'm going to give here in a second, that'll change things. So again, we're keeping regular numbers with regular numbers and y's with y's. So right now I see a 2 and a 6, so that adds up to 8. I see a 8y and a 10y. Those are both positive, so 8y and 10y is plus 18y, and that's the best you can do. They don't go together because they're not like terms. Now, the only other problem that might be a little bit more difficult, I'm going to put it over here, is if we sometimes have parentheses with a negative sign. So this goes back to last year. So if we had 6 minus 3m minus 2 minus 8m. Where it's different now is, just be careful. This is a Math 1 review problem. That negative in front of parentheses needs to be distributed to both the 2 and the minus 8m. So nothing changes with the 6 minus 3m. You really don't even need parentheses on this. But when I distribute the minus sign to the 2, that's minus 2. When I distribute the minus or the negative to the negative 8m, that's like a negative times a negative, that's plus 8m. Now we can clean it up. I see a 6 and a minus 2, that should be 4. I see a negative 3m and a positive 8m, and this goes back to what you did last year. So it's a positive 8 and a minus 3, that should be plus 5m. That's the best you can do. All right? So when you do complex numbers, it's actually easier, I think, because you only have the letter I. You don't have to worry about other letters. The letter I, your imaginary unit, only goes with other letter I's. Real numbers go with real numbers, and we should always put a real number first, then the imaginary number second. So it's really just like numbers first, letters second. So when I look at number 1, I see a negative I, that's like negative 1i, and a positive 6i. Well, that's just 6i, take away 1i. Your answer is just 5i. That's the best you can do. When I look at number 2, this is the same as negative 6 minus 6. So if you wanted to do keep, flip, change, that's really negative 6 plus a negative 6. That answer should be a negative 12. But remember, you had the I attached, so negative 12i. It's the best you can do. All right? This is the same thing. If you want to do keep, flip, change, however you call it, that's fine. But when you combine these, that's a negative 9i. All right, I see parentheses, and again, if there's a plus inside of parentheses, you're technically distributing a positive 1, but it's not going to change the value in anything. So you really don't even need parentheses here, but remember, real numbers come first. There's a 3, there's no other real numbers, so it's 3. But I see a negative 3i plus 5i. So that's just the same as negative 3 plus 5. So that's plus 2i. You don't combine these because real numbers and imaginary numbers don't go together. That's the best you can do. That's a binomial, 3 plus 2i. That's it. All right? Same thing here. Both imaginary, so it's a positive 5 and negative 2, so the answer is 3i. 3i plus 4i, that's no different than if it was 3x plus 4x, so that would just be 7i. Okay, same thing. I see a plus in here. It's not going to change because if you distributed a positive 1 and you multiplied it by the 6 and the minus 5i, it wouldn't change. So, real number with real number, what's a negative 6 and a positive 6? They cancel. But what's a negative 2i and a negative 5i? That's like negative 2 minus 5. That should be a negative 7i. Here's where, if there's going to be mistakes, here's where we make them. This minus sign needs to be distributed to the 4 and the minus 5i. So nothing changes here. So this is still negative 5 plus 3i. But on this one, when you distribute right here, that's a minus 4. When you distribute here, that's a negative times a negative. A negative times a negative 5i is plus 5i. And again, let's do your real numbers first. A negative 5 and a negative 4, that's negative 9. Do imaginary second. 3i plus 5i plus 8i. That's the best you can do. Why do they not go together? Because real doesn't go with imaginary. All right? Okay, no change. Since there's a plus here, no change. Do real numbers first. 5 plus 2 is 7. 6i and a minus 7i. That should be minus 1i. If you don't want to put the 1 in front of it, that's fine, just like that. 7 minus i. That's the best you can do. All right, be careful here. The whole thing is not in parentheses, so we're just having a minus 4i here plus 7. And then nothing changes with the 6 minus 8i. You really didn't even need parentheses here. All right, real with real. 6 plus 7, 13. Negative 8i and a negative 4i. If you did keep flip change, it's negative 8i plus negative 4i. That should be minus 12i. Best you can do right there. All right? All right, last two. And again, if there's a mistake, here's where it's going to happen. You've got to distribute here and here. So this becomes 5 minus 7i. The 3 minus 4i doesn't change. So that's a positive 5 now because you distributed a negative to a negative. Now, do real and real. 3 and 5, that's 8. Negative 4i and a negative 7i. They go together. A negative 4 and a negative 7, that's minus 11i. Best you can do. Last one, same thing. Distribute this, and I would rewrite it. So a negative and a negative, that's a positive 2. Negative and a negative, that's plus 5i. Nothing changes here. Now just clean it up. Real with real. 5 and 2, 7. 3i, 5i, plus 8i. That's the best you can do. Real number, then imaginary. All right? All right, so for homework, you'll see it listed under the assignment folder, but it's the same page, 13 through 20. If you print it off, just show your steps, show your work. Or you can write these problems separate, show your work, but make sure you screenshot it and upload it back, and make sure you have it turned in by the due date. All right, so again, your homework is just